Welcome to Questions and Answers with Jim Wingardner. Before we start, I'm filming on Memorial Day, and I cannot imagine what it is like to watch your brave friends die during military action. It's hard enough to watch what is going on during this pandemic. Therefore, to our veterans, we honor you and the friends we lost. Now, let me start with a few questions. Who is making the decision on what opens and when? Well, we've had a team at our home office that does a lot of the decision making, and they base it on a couple formulas. One is something called PUIs, which is persons under investigation. By the way, we've had about 75 to date, and they're looking for a trend where the number of cases drop and not going up, not only at our community, but in our area. And that's for employees and residents that we track. And our outcome has been very good. So we're able to go to phase one now. And by the way, we're one of the first of the Erickson communities to go. Are restrictions going to be the same between Chatsworth and Devonshire? No. Many of the things we do in Devonshire are mandated by the governor and the state. Therefore, we have to follow those requirements. So, for example, when we start to lift restrictions on guests, my guess is that Chatsworth will be behind Devonshire. And our staff in Chatsworth is required to wear full PPEs, protective equipment, at all times, personal protective equipment, where we don't need to wear all that equipment in independent living. So it's completely different. Will we follow the CDC guidelines? In most cases, we're ahead of them. We have made changes before they did. But we're not always going to follow them because we have to tailor our phases around the community we serve, which happens to be all the residents are over 65 years old. So the rules are a little different for us than the general public. So we tend to be a little slower, but we do use the CDC for advice. Are we still restricting guests at Devonshire in Chatsworth? Yes, under phase one, the restrictions stay the same. So guests are not allowed in either community at this time. What will be included in phase one opening and when will it open? Now, before I answer that question, I want you to remember a couple very important things that you need to do. One, you always have to wear your masks all the way up over your mouth and your nose. Again, during filming, I don't wear my mask, but every other second that I'm at Devonshire or Chatsworth, I'm wearing my mask. The second thing is to follow social distancing. You need to be at least 6 feet away from the person you're interacting with. So we're going to have to set up our outdoor areas and the indoor areas that we do go with, keeping with the 6-foot rule. So we'll be working through that this week. The tricky part of opening for us is right now, everything we open, we're required to monitor it. So we're in the process this week of switching a lot of our employees' roles and responsibilities around to match what we're opening. So here are the outdoor activities that will be opening, hopefully on June 1, weather permitting. And with restrictions, times will be announced. That will be in a letter this week. The pool and outdoor ping pong will be open. We're going to move the ping pong table to the back of the pool area. And there will be umbrellas added for more shade. The whirlpool will be open. The croquet court is opening. Outdoor exercise and walking will be opening. We are going to have some outdoor exercise classes with Remy. Walking, bike riding is still permitted on Ryder Cup, but your temperature will be checked when you come back in. And by the way, to get all this done, our landscapers will be back tomorrow full time. Indoor areas we hope to open on June 1 with restrictions and times to be announced. Now, a couple of these are predicated on the vendors that we use being able to start by June 1. The library will be open probably 3 days a week. Again, times to be announced. The mailroom will reopen with the mailman delivering your mail. So we will no longer pick up or deliver mail. The vendor that does our newspaper deliveries will be back. Bi-weekly limited housekeeping will be added. It's about an hour every other week, and it's just going to be your bathrooms, the kitchen, and we'll change your beds, just do some light cleaning to get your apartments a little bit back in order. Probably one of the favorites, the hair salon will open if they're ready to open. Our health club will open, and the bank will open. Again, if the bank is ready to open. Next question. There seems to be some confusion about the consequences of leaving property for medical appointments, hair appointments, shopping, etc. When a person returns, are they confined to their apartment for 14 days or just monitored for symptoms, and they are free to walk outside, sit by the pool, etc.? Well, number one, we really don't want you going to your hair appointment, shopping, etc. That's still on the list of things not to do. Our salon will be open, and we have made arrangements to either use our services or teach you how to use Instacart to have your food delivered. We don't want you in the grocery stores. We feel that's still an area of major concern. And again, we can't control what happens. But if you choose to do those things and you return, you will be confined to your apartment for 14 days. You will self-monitor your temperature. We will call and make sure that you've checked it. If you need help with it, we'll do that. We will ask you not to participate in anything else that we're doing. You will only be allowed to leave the property and come back if that's what you choose to do. So please don't do that yet. It's not time. When phase 2 is introduced, that'll probably be the time that folks can leave the community. And again, we're not going to be completely safe until there's a treatment, which we don't have, or that vaccine that we desperately need. A question that came up too, we lost a resident recently, and what can we do? When a resident dies, we used to acknowledge it with an announcement, a rose, and a photo outside the Cambridge room. Couldn't we do something similar on 63? The answer is yes, and we will start that process. There have been move-ins during the lockdown. People are concerned about it. What procedures do we follow to minimize the risk? Any things, including the pads and the elevators, disinfecting the packages. Do the movers wear masks? Do we enforce our rules? Well, the number one issue is I do know we had a move-in recently where the movers did not wear masks. That will be corrected. I will be assigning a person on move-in day to monitor the movers to make sure that everything goes to our protocols, which will be they will wear gloves, they will wear masks. The boxes don't have to be treated. Even though we're still treating boxes, the CDC has now announced that it's very, very difficult to get the disease off any type of surface like that. It's more person to person. So we're not going to make them sanitize each box before it's brought in. But the key is it will be monitored. The elevators are sanitized after the move. The pads are sanitized. All those things will continue to happen. And by the way, we've had 2 or 3, and I think we have 1 more coming up. Sales office is pretty much closed, so we really haven't had any activity to move people in. These are people that already paid and were technically already your neighbors, just put off their move until they felt a little safer. We might suggest that people use a tissue when pressing the elevator buttons, opening doors, etc. Yes, that's a good idea, but we also do have sanitizers in those areas. And what I always do is put the sanitizer on, push the button, and then rub my hands again with the sanitizer, what's left on my hands. And by the way, the best safety is to wear gloves. If you're concerned about touching things, just wear gloves. Now this is back to Chatsworth. Does the ductwork for Chatsworth service multiple rooms? Have we considered installing a UV light in the ductwork? How often are the filters changed? Are the filters capable of filtering out small particles? We have a chiller system, and each room does have its own unit, and the air does not go from area to area. The filters that we use, yes, catch small particles. There's no issues there. We've never been cited by the state for not doing them in time. What will we be doing when our vendors start to come to Devonshire and Chatsworth? We are asking them to be tested. If positive, they're not going to come for 14 days or until they can give us a negative test. And that'll be asked for all vendors as they start coming in. There are a couple exceptions. We can't ask the U.S. Mail to do it, but I believe we can ask everyone else to do it, and we are in the process of doing that. Is starting to renovate apartments part of phase 1, namely REOCs? Yes. We will start the REOC process again on January 1st. By the way, same rules for the group that does our REOCs. I don't know if you know this, but we only have one company that does them. It's a very small crew, and they've been here pretty much the whole time. They do wear masks, and we do make sure they don't congregate in areas that they don't belong. What we're going to do a little differently this year is we're going to use the guest suites for daytime accommodations. So if the noise is too much for you, just let us know, and we will be glad to give you one of those day rooms to use during the day. And by the way, the day rooms are disinfected each day after use. What went in the large box container out back? Well, believe it or not, it's the first order of our new windows for the window project. However, we have not established a start date to install them yet. We have to do a lot of planning around that before we can do it. That'll probably be part of phase 2. Some of us are concerned we are opening things too early. Are we? Well, we have chosen things to open this first round where we can monitor it and make sure that there's social distancing. And if you'll notice, they're all things that are on campus that we can control. One thing that I am going to ask is that you all become social ambassadors. And what I mean by that is if you see someone that isn't doing social distancing, ask them to. If you see someone that doesn't have their mask on properly, ask them to. If you have chronic issues, come find one of the managers, we'll take care of it. Or find the person in the area. And by the way, we're going to phase 1 because we think we're ready. If we do have any outbreaks in the community at all, we will be very quick to shut down any services we need to. So those are the questions I have this time. Again, to our veterans, happy Memorial Day. And we're going to try to do one of these every week. Please keep sending your questions to Marty. Marty collects them, gives them to me, and I'll be glad to answer them. Take care and enjoy.